Continuing on talking about equipment that you would use, what I want to talk about today is what to do if you need a computer. Now, laptops can be good for doing certain things. I prefer desktop computer for several reasons. Expandability is just one of the reasons. They are easier to cool. They don't overheat as easily as a laptop can, which prevents the laptop or the motherboard from distorting or being impacted by heat. It also means you don't have something hot sitting in your lap. Laptops sitting on a desk that you're tucked up against are a little less friendly than having a good-sized monitor in front of you and a keyboard and a mouse or a trackball like I use. Just makes things a little bit easier to work with when you're doing that, from my perspective. So I was putting together a computer that I wanted to use for streaming movies and other videos that I have. And as I was putting it together, I ended up basically building what I did in 2019 for less money. So I went to eBay and I picked up an Asus Prime Z390 motherboard that had an i9 already on board, as well as 32 gigs of RAM. That was $400. Now think about what we put on our computers or on our cameras and the other accessories that we need. $400 isn't much. Now, I can put the computer together myself. So if you were going to do something similar to this and you didn't feel comfortable doing that, you're going to have to find somebody to put together, and there'll be expenses for that, obviously. But the tower I put it in was $150. The power supply was another $100. I got a good graphics card in it, a refurb on it that cost me under $300. $35 for a CPU cooler because the computer didn't have a way to cool the CPU, just had the CPU on it. But then I went and had other things on there that you wouldn't need. I had a 4 terabyte SSD on there. You could probably get away with a lot less than that. 4 terabyte running you about $260. Prices obviously are coming down on all this stuff. But you could get a 256 gig one for about $60 or less, depending on the quality of the drive that you're getting. In our cases, what we're going to need is a way to save the movies, right? So you're either going to want to put a network attached device in, or if you're going to try to do it on your computer and you've got a tower. Now, the tower that I've got has a lot of room for hard drives in it. If you're going to go that route, I'm trying out a refurbed 12 terabyte drive. Now, it was $140. Now, if you look for a regular 3.5 inch mechanical 12 terabyte drive, they're much more expensive than that. This is a refurbed drive that was used for a security system. So it has a longer life expectancy. Again, if you're going to be doing anything in the computer realm, especially with stuff that you worry about losing, you're going to want to get yourself a good monitor for your hard drive. Now, there's one in the Windows Store. There's also one that you can get called HD Sentinel that allows you to keep an eye on the drives. Not only can you get a feeling for their life expectancy, but HD Sentinel also will pop up a bunch of little icons that will show you what the temperature of the drives are right now. And that can be a very important piece of information for anybody who wants to use things like external drives and things. Should I cool the external drives off? So I ended up coming out of this whole thing expending about $1,600. Now, again, I have a much more expensive SSD drive than you would probably be using. I also have a $200 Pioneer DVD drive, read-writable, that's in there that you probably wouldn't need or want to have in there, and that was another $200. So if we dropped it down, took $200 off of it, it'd be just over $1,000 for a very usable, very easy to run Photoshop, etc. on without any issue whatsoever. Doesn't include the operating system, obviously. I was using Mint, which is a Linux variant of Ubuntu, and it's going to work for what I want to do for that server, but the one that I use for my photo work is a Windows box. So you'll have to add in the $100+ for a Windows license for that. But it'll give you something that you can use that won't cost you as much as a new computer might, but will give you flexibility and give you enough power for what you're doing right now. Again, by having a desktop, if you can't afford quite the same graphics card right now, like I said, I couldn't afford a new 3060, but I could afford a refurbed 3060. When I can afford a new 3060, for example, I could just pop that graphics card out and pop the new graphics card in. I have a lot of room for flexibility inside the machine so that I'm not tied down to what I currently have. Now, obviously, motherboards are a little bit of a different sort because they're not the type of thing that you take out unless you're redoing the entire computer. But I think it's 1152 socket that the i9 is. So if you found another CPU that could fit into the 1152 that's compatible with the motherboard that you got, you could swap out your CPU. And memory, of course, can always be upgraded and swapped out. In this case, there's 4 8 gigabyte memory chips in there, so they could be pulled out and replaced with bigger ones, assuming that the motherboard can handle the memory addressing. So when you're looking for certain things, right, you may need to spend more money on your computer or your camera equipment and your lenses and things. And by finding used equipment or refurbed equipment, you're doing two things. You're saving that from going into a landfill somewhere, giving it a new home. There's a lot of gamers out there that sometimes will give away their entire or sell off their entire system. They don't just replace components, they'll replace the entire system. So you'll have it in a tower configuration all ready to go for you. That's an option. Again, they're doing the same thing. It's not something they have to throw out. They've got their new computer, and this will help offset the expense of the new computer. Some of the gamers that I know can do $10,000 on a computer system. So it'll give you a starting point. If you're doing things on your laptop right now or on a laptop computer or an older desktop, this will give you a way to upgrade without breaking the bank. Now, the i9 is a 2019 processor, so it's the parts of my system are a little bit older, and that's okay. The system that I put together years ago, which cost me over $1,000 because everything was new in there, is pretty much the same box. So I redid what I already had by finding some used and refurbed components. So now I have twins. Same processors, different memory manufacturers, same amount of memory, same graphics card, except the generation different. The original one I have has a 2060 in it right now, and this one has a new 3060 in it. So there are ways that you can go find things that will help you out. Now, that doesn't mean you can't also find used camera equipment that's going to work perfectly well for you, but just be careful when you're working with camera equipment, because some of that some of the lenses and things may have imperfections that are harder to notice up front until you're actually using them. And that makes it a little harder for you to figure out where you're going with it. If you're going to buy something refurbished, make sure that you're buying from a reputable source. Look for the reputation score of anybody you're getting. Like I got stuff off of eBay. The refurb stuff, some of it was off of eBay. I got some of the new stuff out of Staples, B&H, Adorama. So there's a lot of places you can go find components for things and shop around a little bit. That 4 terabyte drive that I've got, which, like I said, you probably wouldn't need. It's a 4 terabyte SSD, is expensive, and I shopped around a little bit before I found a good price on it that I wanted. So keep that in mind. We've talked about local NAS before, and those types of things that you would add to the system. But here we're just talking about the main system itself and a way of you getting a system for less money. Now, if you are uncomfortable putting this stuff together, again, you're going to have somebody put it together for you. There's going to be an expense to that. And you never know. Maybe one of the guys that you find on eBay might, he's selling off his old equipment. He's probably put together something before. You might be able to have him put something together for you. And there are also refurbished machines. But what I was seeing on eBay was not quite the quality that I would want to put together for a machine to do this kind of photo work on. I did get a little one as a precursor to this to do streaming with, but it had onboard graphics, and onboard graphics have a limitation to them. While I do my photography, I also use Premiere Pro to create videos. I'm using Audition right now to record this podcast. So there's a lot of other things that I use the computer for, and I wanted something that was beefier and would work well. When it comes to memory, don't skimp, because the Adobe stuff, when I'm using Photoshop and Lightroom, I realized I was having problems if I had 24 gigs of RAM. So I went up to 32. That extra little headroom in there made everything run much smoother. And that was just because the applications needed so much RAM to manipulate images and to store things so that they would run quicker, that it was just eating up a lot of space. But that's what I got for you guys this week. A way for you to go get a upgrade to your system without breaking the bank. And I will talk to you all next week.